Hey guys, and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Financial Freedom Podcast. If you are looking to become a high profile speaker or get into public speaking, thought leadership, I'm really excited to introduce Cam Beaudoin from Toronto, Canada. And he is the founder of The Frequent Speaker. He's going to talk to us how he gets clients booked on stage, how coaches, entrepreneurs can use speaking to grow their business, and how he built a speaker booking agency that gets clients 5 to 10 stage invites a month. So that's you. Stay tuned, and I'm really happy to have him on. Cam, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's great. I'm super excited to talk about this topic. It's always a great time.
Yeah. And I really love this idea of thought leadership, brand. You get authors, coaches, entrepreneurs in front of stages. How did you get it to this position that you're in today?
So I'm not sure if when you think of a software developer, you probably don't think of the guy who's going to be like, oh, me, I want to be up on stage. But that was me. I started off at IBM actually, and I was a coach trainer there for disability inclusion and accessibility. So I was a developer and I would build websites with this in mind. And I kept getting asked by other people in different various teams saying, hey, can you come teach us how to do that? Teach us. So I made that my thing. And then IBM started to send me off to stages to go and speak and maybe even bring in clients as well for IBM, kind of make everybody aware that IBM is now handling these kinds of tasks or this type of work. And it kind of just snowballed from there. It became like a bit of a hobby, then a passion. And then I made some money doing it. I got paid by IBM to go off on stages and speak on this topic. And then I finally was able to quit IBM and start speaking for myself. And there's a whole bunch of little implications there, but it grew from there. So I was a speaker for 7 years on disability inclusion, accessibility. And I just kept seeing pain points that a lot of speakers would run into again and again around video, around marketing, around personal branding, and all these kinds of keywords. And we don't have time to probably talk about all of that, but very specifically of how to get on stage is something I think every single speaker, every single coach or thought leader, they want more stages to grow their business and awareness. So that's where I put most of my focus now.
Yeah. And to top it off, what's interesting is I was having lunch with one of my colleagues, and he is actually a public speaker, and he actually makes 30K per speaking gig. And a lot of people listening to this, they're aspiring to make several speeches, get paid 30, 40, 50K per speech. But why great speakers aren't getting paid booking gigs, and how to fix it? What's going on there?
So the main thing that I noticed, like the clients that I work with that are the most successful, they have a very clear offer. Okay, so it all comes down to what are you known for? What do you want to be known for? Where do you hang your hat? Where does that flag get planted? And are you able to stand behind that and say, this is what I speak on? You're not wishy-washy. You're not saying yes to every single speaking opportunity that comes your way. And especially if you want to start to be known for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, your stuff has to be timely. It has to be important. It has to transform audiences. It has to make a really big difference. So people who speak on like leadership coaching as this blanket term for being a good speaker, what is that? What is leadership coaching and training? That's a lot different than saying, I will transform $25 million per year revenue businesses to reach the next level up to 50. That's attractive because you're able to really quantify what you speak on. And your friend probably does exactly that. Like he has a very specific thing he speaks on and people want him just for that. And so there's probably a category of one that's created out there.
And what's going on where people like this, you have that one end where you're basically like a Tony Robbins or a high profile, but then the other one is where you're landing speaking gigs. You could be paid, it could be, or you're landing high profile, but it's very inconsistent. It's like you can't plan it. It's like maybe one a year, maybe it's zero. What's going on there?
I think a lot of people don't realize that when you're building a speaking business, you're growing a business. And so if we were to forget the world of speaking, if the product was a water bottle or something like that, then there would be no doubt that you have to do marketing, you have to do advertising, you have to get it in the hands of influencers or Costco or something like that. You would have to do the work to put this in the right places so that people see it, then buy it. And I think what happens is that a lot of us who go out and speak on stage, we think that we're super famous. Oh, I've had 500 people listen to a talk at a local business or something like that. They brought me in for their quarterly sales call and there's 500 people on the webinar. I'm famous, right? People think that. But then out there in the world, you forget that nobody knows who you are. You go one event that's nearby or similar, and you're like, who are you? You have to restart every single time. And that's the same thing for products, physical products. Like, just because it's in one big box store doesn't mean that everyone who's shopping at a Walmart or Home Depot, like they don't know that product even exists if you're only at Costco. So we have to remember that advertising is constant. That means social media, that means cold email outreach, that means broadcasting yourself, taking all your keynotes. If you do go and do a speech, put it up on YouTube. Let yourself be known, because that in and of itself it's a lot of work. You got to go do that work. It's the effort that you have to put in.
Oh, interesting. So we'll move into what's your system for helping clients land speaking gigs consistently, and who's your client avatar?
So for me, it really is the people who are thought leaders or coaches, people who have a something, they've done something before. So quick sidebar, there's a lot of speakers out there who have a good idea, but it's unproven. The time to come to me is not when you have an unproven idea. It's people who say, I coach women executives to reach the next level in their career. You've got something, you've got proof and background, you have experience, you have testimonials probably. Those are people who work really well for a system like what I've got. What I'm doing is we're doing a lot of cold email outreach to organizations, to events, and we're applying to these events so that that event planner understands very clearly what it is that you would bring to their stage, because that's going to be the big difference between getting booked and not. Do you offer a big transformation when you're getting up on stage? Because if someone is going to take the risk on somebody who is not a famous person, I say that in quotes, if you're not a famous person and you're going to be invited onto stage, that event planner is taking a risk on you. I don't know if this person's going to perform. So if you have no proof, or if you haven't put yourself in the right position, asked a lot of questions and sent out a lot of emails, then you're just not going to get the results that you want to. That's where the haphazardness comes from. I sometimes speak, I sometimes don't speak, or the follow-up happens sometimes. And that's what we take over for clients. It's all that extra work that a lot of speakers don't have the time to do, or maybe a coach is busy coaching, so they don't have time to come and do a lot of that like outreach work. That's all the work that we take off.
Interesting. So what sort of, for people that are they're suffering from one of the two problems that we talked about in the beginning, and we talked about your system for helping clients, what kind of stages actually move the needle for clients wanting to grow a business?
So the bigger stages, the better, right? This is a volume game. So remember, so the more eyes that you have looking at you makes the most sense. Now, it's really attractive, I think, to a lot of people to say, oh, I've got like the local Rotary Club wants me in. And your local Rotary Club may have 50, 60, 70 members, or if you're at a bigger one, at a bigger city, you can still go and speak at those events. But are they buyers? So I think as buyer alignment is the best indicator of, is this the right type of audience that you want to go speak at? Now, I want to be very clear here. Number of people in the audience doesn't mean like the raw number. It's how many buyers are actually in the audience. How many people will come back to you afterwards and be like, hey, I'd like to hear more about your program, about your SaaS product, about whatever. What can you do for me? You want to make sure they have the cash. You want to make sure that they're actual buyers. So I'll give you an example for this. When I used to speak on disability inclusion, the people in the audience were the doers, the technicians. They were the developers and the designers. So they would be very good at taking action on the training I would give, but they weren't very good at bringing me in to teach them, to teach an organization how to make their websites more accessible. So it wasn't until I changed that to more of a coaching program style to say, I will teach you to be a better accessibility consultant. That's when I really saw those audiences start to convert and bring me in and hire me for more services. So I really think that audience matching is probably the biggest lever that you can have. So just make sure when you're applying for events that you've got an audience full of people who actually would want your service and can pay for it.
Interesting. The next question I have for you is, it seems like speaking bureaus, everybody is talking about joining a speaking bureau. So basically you pay a fee or something, and basically it gives you access to all these conference organizers but how do you grow their speaking business bypassing the speakers bureau?
Speakers bureaus are not what people think. So speakers bureaus, you're going to get repped by an organization, and they are apparently going to go and find you speaking opportunities. But remember, the incentive for a speakers bureau is with the event organizer who's planning the event. Like, they are the ones who hold the cash, and they are going to pay the speakers bureau to bring you on as a speaker. So if you're not talking about a hot topic or controversial topic, or if someone doesn't know you really as a speaker of note, then they're going to book you maybe one or two speaking gigs per year. So a lot of people say, I aspire to be represented by a bureau. A bureau is not going to do outreach for you, like just plain and simply. If they happen on a good one, or if you bring them business, then they're going to rep you, but not more than that. I think what the fear is that a lot of speakers don't want to do sales by themselves. They feel nervous about, I don't know how to run this part of my business, or like following up with event organizers. So if you want to do this yourself, it's very doable. Just start to become known for one thing and get out there and go and do more outreach than a speakers bureau ever will. Because speaker bureaus are also going to take a 20 to 30% cut off of every single gig that you offer. So if you're a speaker who hasn't proven a $15,000 speaking fee, then you're probably not worth their time, because think about it, right? Like 15,000, if they're taking 30%, they're like you'll get $10,000 as a speaking fee. And that may be a lot to you. That may be a little, but it's those people who are really like earning, if you're only earning $5,000, they're just not going to find the opportunities for you.
Interesting. And what's the biggest myth people believe about getting booked to speak?
I think one of the biggest myths that people have around speaking, it's that if you speak to everybody about everything, that you're going to get more speaking opportunities. It's the biggest myth. Like one person may come to you about gardening, and the next person is going to talk to you about like IT stuff. And it's just all these various topics. And if you're just talking about a bunch of stuff that you like talking about, you're not known for one thing. So the more focused you can get in what you speak on and who you speak to and how you can solve their problems, the better the opportunities are. I'll give you an example to that. I'm working with a speaker right now who she used to play hockey professionally, okay? And when she exited due to health reasons, and she had a family and all this kind of stuff, when she exited sports, there was a bit of a crisis inside of her. So she went through an identity crisis. And now what she speaks on is exactly that problem to other sports organizations. Because a lot of professional athletes, once they exit the sport through injury, or maybe they just age out, stuff like that, their identity was the sport. And now they no longer have that sport. So unless they're going to go into coaching, or maybe the professional associate, they're going to become a used car salesperson. There's not a lot of NFL references if you're going to do used car sales. So she helps those athletes transition out in a way that feels better. So she'll go in and speak at sports organizations about that. Very successful. She has a very clear audience that she wants to speak to. She has something that's very relevant to them. She only wants to focus in on that. It's not like she's talking also about mindset and investment portfolios afterwards. She's very clear on, I want to help athletes transition out of sports when they're going through that shift. Very easy to market her as a result. So I think that's the biggest thing. Find a lane, pick a niche, talk about that, and then you can exploit that for as long as you need.
Yeah, and the more people I talk to, it's all about, especially what you're talking about, the niche, stay in your lane, your product offer, who's your client avatar, and just so talk about how your speaker booking agency differs from others and some of the successes. I know you mentioned the previous, how do you, and getting clients 5 to 10 stage invites a month.
So I think it really starts with that very first call. The reason the most successful speakers that we work with, like I said, they come in with a pretty clear offer already. They need a little bit of massaging, but it's not too much. It's when somebody comes into the program and says something along the lines of, hey, I won a speaking award in college, right? I'm a good speaker. Okay, what do you speak on? And they're a little bit wishy-washy about that. So that is always those are always the hardest people to work with. So part of what we do on that very first call is really get clear on who we're going to be doing outreach to, and if it feels comfortable for the speaker. And I tell people up front, if we were to get you 30 opportunities speaking to this one avatar over the next year, or even beyond that, is that something that you would love to do? Because if you don't love speaking to that audience, if you don't really feel comfortable, if that's not really good, then it's like, why are we doing this work? Then we got to go back to the drawing board and really refine that more. So that's probably the biggest differentiator, is really getting super, super clear on who you want to speak to about what and what problems they have. Now, it doesn't mean later on you can't grow that, right? You can expand your market, right? Let me give you an example of maybe another speaker I work with. So this speaker talks about Disney. In Disney, everybody, very brand recognizable, but he specializes in helping organizations use the Disney mindset on creativity and innovation. But he had a radio show for 17 years just speaking about Disney and the Disney parks. So I said, hey, if we could just go and maybe saturate the market with you and all the resorts, all the water parks and theme parks and amusement parks. Like, what if we just focused in on that for the next couple months? What if we took the 30,000 amusement parks that are all over the United States and just blasted them all with you? Would that be something you'd love to do? And he said, absolutely. That would be amazing. So he could be known as the Disney speaker, or maybe not Disney, but the innovation speaker for amusement parks in the US. Like, how cool would that be? You can make an entire career of just speaking about that and then come and repeat business and all that kind of good stuff. So I think that as entrepreneurs, as coaches, we have this idea that we want to be the complete solution for everybody, but that's not what we have to be. The more we can get niche down and be like, you give that very specific solution to this very specific audience, you can always expand it later, because there's nothing that says that he can't go to hotels, right? More hospitality, or maybe restaurants, teach them how to do the Disney innovation mindset, right? So there's all these angles that we could explore later on, but like really go deep into one topic first.
Interesting. We have a question from the audience, and one of it is talking about what's the difference between getting booked via a speaker's bureau versus a booking agency.
The big difference between a speaker's bureau and a booking agency is you're keeping all the cash. That's the big thing. So if I'm putting people on $10,000 to $15,000 stages, they're keeping all that. I work on a retainer model, and I'm helping other parts of the business too, because a lot of speakers also, they are unaware that when you get on a sales call, there may be like a couple of people you got to go through. You may be creating an opportunity rather than applying for a set opportunity that's already out there. So think of it this way. Given the example I just gave about Disney innovation, if he wants to go and speak at an amusement park, they may not be hosting a big event. They may be looking for somebody to go train them. And that is a speaking opportunity. So that's probably the biggest difference. A speaker's bureau is taking a big cut, like I said, 20, 30% off of your speaking fee, and they'll place you in something. But I want to just mention something that's worth mentioning. CES, the big electronics tech conference, right?
Yeah.
Right now it's August of 2025. They're currently booking for January of 2028. Wow. So sometimes we don't realize how long it takes to book a high profile speaker into an event. So your friend you mentioned at the very beginning, I'm not sure how early on he was accepting opportunities for this event, but it's not like we've got lists of 5, 6, 7-figure opportunities listed out. Oh, let me just match a speaker with a $30,000 opportunity. Like, it takes time to get this ball rolling, and it takes time for these opportunities to happen. So those are some of the bigger differences. But once things are rolling, it's like there's a flywheel that happens.
Yeah, interesting. And if people wanted to learn more from you and contact you about joining your agency, getting booked more, getting more information, how can they connect with you and contact you?
Probably the best way to find me is thefrequentspeaker.com/financial freedom. Got that tagged for here. So anyone who comes in, if you go to thefrequentspeaker.com/financial freedom, and there'll be some assets there, some information, and just more about how to contact me there.
Yeah, excellent. And again, thanks so much for coming on. I know the audience really enjoyed hearing more about the work that you do. Keep it up, and thanks so much for coming on.
Great. Thanks so much.